Welcome back. Tonight you'll hear three stories, three encounters with beings that shouldn't exist. A stalker who knows everything about you, a woman who refuses to die, and something watching you from the trees. Before we begin, dim your lights, grab something to eat or drink, and make sure to watch until the very end. If you enjoy these stories, don't forget to like and subscribe. Huge thanks to the authors for these incredible tales. Let's get into some terrifying Reddit horror stories. It started a week ago when I got a notification on Instagram about a new follower. I get random requests all the time, so it didn't stand out at first. The username was Optimus Prime 33. Not exactly subtle, not exactly human. No profile picture, no posts, no bio. Following exactly one person. Me. I didn't follow back, obviously. I don't follow empty accounts unless I know the person, and I didn't know this one. Actually, I didn't know anything about this one. Zero mutuals, zero footprint, zero reason to exist. I remember looking at the profile for a total of 3 seconds and thinking, bot. Closed the app and moved on. End of story. Or so I thought. The next morning, I woke up, brushed my teeth, made the same coffee I drink every day, and sat on my sofa replying to boring work messages. My phone buzzed with a notification from Instagram. Optimus Prime 33 mentioned you in a post. I rolled my eyes, thinking it was probably some spam reel tagging random people, opened it anyway. It wasn't a reel. It was a photo. A photo of my building. My building. Not a stock photo, not something anyone could Google, my actual building. Taken from the street. The angle was unmistakable. My floor. My balcony railing. The light from my bedroom window, everything. Caption? You're still here. I remember sitting there staring at my phone thinking, who the is this? I clicked the profile again, still private. Still no posts except this one. Still following just me. Still no followers. It felt like a blank mask staring back. I tried blocking him. Instagram behaved like it worked, user blocked, but when I refreshed the page, the account was still there. Nothing changed. I tried again. Same thing. The account clung to me like glue. I shrugged it off and went to work because, honestly, I wasn't about to lose my day over some idiot with a Transformers username. Later that afternoon, another notification. Another tag. This time it was a picture of me, walking to the lift, taken from the lobby. The lobby was empty when I left my apartment. I'm not imagining that. I didn't see anyone standing near the stairs or pretending to scroll by the wall. It was dead quiet. But the photo was taken from the corner, the exact opposite corner from where I was walking. The caption said, "You don't notice anything." That pissed me off more than it scared me. I commented under the post, "Who are you?" He replied instantly, not a second of delay, just smiley. I felt the hair on my arms rise. I don't know why that stupid smiley hit so hard, but it did. Something about the way he responded so fast, like he was waiting for me to ask. I clicked unfollow out of pure irritation. All his posts vanished instantly, like his profile wiped itself clean the moment I cut the link. When I followed again to check, he accepted immediately, no delay. Almost like he'd been staring at his screen, waiting for me to click the button. 2 days later, I woke up early for work. Earlier than usual because I had a meeting I didn't want to be late for. And I found another tag. A screenshot. My old Facebook profile. Like ancient old. Photos from college, cringe memes I'd forgotten I posted, people I don't even speak to anymore. He scraped something from an era of my life I barely remember and posted it like some kind of digital trophy. Caption, always liked this one. Liked what? The picture? Me? The life I had back then? I didn't know, and honestly, I didn't want to think about it. I started to get uneasy, not terrified yet, just annoyed and unsettled, like when you know a mosquito's in your room but you can't find it. Yesterday, it escalated. I left work, walked toward my bike, parked near the gate like always, and my phone buzzed. Another tag. A picture of my bike. Same angle I see it from when I walk up to it. Taken moments before I got there. I scanned the area thinking maybe some idiot from the office was messing with me, but nobody was standing around. Nobody was hiding behind cars or pillars. It was just empty. Caption: You really don't know me. Yeah, don't. And that was the problem. Last night, I sat on my couch for 2 straight hours scrolling through my memories, trying to place him. School? No. College? No. Office? Definitely not. A friend of a friend? Nothing. A random neighbor? No. Someone I pissed off years ago? No idea. There was nothing. No connection, no shared history, no reason this guy should know anything about me. This morning, things got real. About 40 minutes ago, he posted a picture of my doorbell, my nameplate, up close, clear as daylight. He had stood right there. Caption: Back home soon? That was it for me. I grabbed my keys, grabbed my phone, didn't even check if the door was locked, just walked straight out. Didn't call anyone, didn't tell anyone, just walked fast and didn't look back. I must have reached the police station in 5 minutes flat, probably broke a walking speed record. And now I'm sitting in this shitty plastic chair with people screaming down the hall and constables walking past without making eye contact. The fan above me is rattling like it's about to fall, my palms are sweating, and I'm typing all of this out because I haven't figured out how to explain this without sounding insane. Hi sir, some guy with a Transformers username is tagging me in pictures of my balcony. Yeah, great, sounds normal. I opened Instagram to check if he posted anything new. Nothing. The same set of posts, arranged neatly like a timeline of creeping dread. I tapped each one again. My balcony. Me near the lift, my old Facebook profile, my bike, my doorbell. I zoomed into each picture trying to find clues, reflections, shadows, footprints, corners, anything. There was nothing. Whoever took these photos was careful. Too careful. I checked the timestamps. They lined up with my routine, almost perfectly. Morning, afternoon, post-work, late evening. The fucker knew my schedule. I even checked the metadata on the photos. Instagram strips most of it, but I checked anyway. Nothing. I tried Googling his username. Nothing. No Reddit, no Twitter, no straight gaming IDs, nothing in any breach database, no traces. Like the account exists only on Instagram, only connected to me. I even tried messaging him. Tell me who you are. No reply. I was halfway through typing a second message when I realized I was being stupid and stopped before giving him more attention. And now I'm here, stuck in a police station typing this all down while constables keep walking past me like I'm a stain on the floor. I wish I could say I'm calm. I'm not. I'm trying so hard to pretend I'm not affected, but my chest feels tight and I keep checking the station doorway expecting him to walk in. I keep refreshing Instagram every few seconds, and each time I brace myself for another notification. I swear I'm shaking writing this. All of this feels unreal, and too real at the same time. A stranger following me everywhere, taking photos, posting them seconds later, reacting instantly when I unfollow or comment. It's too much. I'm trying to appear normal in the police station, but I keep glancing at the entrance. Every time the door moves, my heartbeat jumps. Every time someone coughs behind me, I flinch. Someone has been watching me for a week, closely enough to know when I leave my room, when I enter my lift, when I park my bike, when I unlock my door, when I panic. I'm trying to steady myself, but my fingers won't stop tapping the screen. My phone buzzed as I was typing this out. Another tag, another post. My hands are cold. I open Instagram without thinking. This time, it was a picture of me, sitting on this same plastic chair, typing on my phone. My shoulders hunched the exact way they are right now, my thumb mid-swipe, my leg bent at the same angle, everything identical. It was taken from beside me, right next to my shoulder, like someone stood inches away while I typed. And I didn't notice anybody standing there. The caption read, "This won't help." It was either joining a gym or taking up hiking. I wish I had joined a gym. After my breakup with Carl, and after a much-needed period of shameless self-pity and wallowing, I knew that I needed to do something positive, get active again, and feel good about myself. I decided on hiking for a couple of reasons. I had never been an outdoorsy type, and I wanted to prove to myself that I could challenge myself. I had gotten so comfortable, too comfortable, I suppose, in my relationship. It was time to get out of my comfort zone. Plus, I liked the idea of the solitude hiking would bring me. I needed time to think and reflect. Well, let's just say I didn't get that part right, but I definitely found myself out of my comfort zone, way out of my comfort zone. After spending far too much on a pair of hiking boots, a day pack, and some other hiking gear, none of which would come in useful, as you'll see, I chose a trail about a 45-minute drive away from where I lived. I arrived early at the trailhead. The air was crisp and fresh, renewing even. I went inside the small ranger station to sign in. Greeting me were two men, an older one with bushy gray eyebrows and gray hair in a ponytail, and a younger one, probably closer to my own early 30s age, with dark, slick-back hair. "Good morning," said Ponytail cheerily. "Lovely morning for a hike." I'd have to take his word for it, since this was my very first time hiking, but I smiled back cheerfully as he handed me a pen to sign the visitor's register. Ponytail explained a couple of rules to me: stay on the designated path, leave and take nothing, and then he said something that made me pause. Now, we've been having a bit of a problem with a vagrant in the park. A woman. She's been hassling a few of the hikers. We don't know. He was cut off from the sound of a phone ringing in a room to the back of the reception area. He held up a finger to signal he'd be right back. This entire time, Slick had been sitting behind the counter on a stool, watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. He hadn't said a word until Ponytail left. "Listen here," he said quietly. "That's no woman in the park. He knows it," he said, pointing at Ponytail on the call in the other room, "and I know it. What I'm about to say might make you turn around and head straight for your car, but if it doesn't, and you still want to do the trail, then you've got to be careful." He kept his voice low, seemingly to keep Ponytail from overhearing him. "If you see her, or it, or whatever, it'll be in a tree. She's always in the trees. She'll try talking to you. Don't engage. Try not to even look up if you hear a voice coming from the trees. But if you can't help it, whatever you do, don't talk back to it. Just pretend it's not there and walk back to the trailhead and get in your car and drive away. If you see her a second time, then run. If she starts climbing down from the tree, then pray." I stared at Slick in shock, my mouth slightly open, not sure if I should start laughing or screaming. I'm only telling you this because, no offense, I can see you're probably not the most experienced hiker. He looked me up and down, clocking my obvious never-used boots and Pack's waist belt harness too tightly around my middle. And she seems to target people like you. The thing is, it looks like she's not just observing anymore, but he stopped abruptly as Ponytail came back into the room. Slick stared at me, his expression serious. "Right," said Ponytail. "Sorry about that. Now, you have enough water. The round trip takes about 4 hours to complete, maybe 5 if you're not walking too fast or not used to the trail." I nodded, my head still spinning. Now, of course, this is the part I should have turned around and headed straight for my car. But the problem is, I'm terribly stubborn. With Ponytail's implied and Slick's outright judgment of my experience as a hiker, I was very determined to prove them wrong. In fact, 10 minutes into the hike, I had convinced myself that Slick was just trying to scare me off because he probably thought my inexperience would become a problem for him, like I'd be dumb enough to go off trail or try pet a mountain lion. 30 minutes in, I noticed my boots began to hurt my feet a little. An hour in, the air had turned from crisp and refreshing to thick and oppressive, and the big toe on my left foot was absolutely throbbing. I didn't know how much determination I had left to keep me going forward. I found the bench a couple of minutes later and sat down. I immediately took off my boot and sock and examined the large, raw blister forming on my toe. I hadn't brought a first aid kit and was cursing myself as I took a large gulp of water from my bottle. All of a sudden, I can't describe this any other way. I felt the presence of another person and instinctively looked at the trail, sure I'd see another hiker making their way around the bend. But there was no one. I held my breath, waiting. The forest was unnaturally still and quiet, as if it were holding its breath and waiting with me. And then I jumped violently as a group of blackbirds exploded out of a tree a ways down from where I had just come from, cawing angrily as they flew away. Maybe it was the pain or the discomfort from the heat, or maybe I had started feeling spooked by what Slick had said. But I decided to get out of there, pulling my sock and boot on and packing away my water bottle in record speed. It would take me another hour to get back to my car, maybe a little longer as I had started limping a bit to keep the weight off my left foot. I still had the gnawing feeling that I wasn't alone, that any minute another hiker would appear on the path. Instead, I heard a soft, "Hello?" from above. I did look, of course I did. Anyone would. What I saw was an extremely thin, pale woman sitting on a low branch in the tree above me. Her arms were hugging the trunk, and it took me a moment to realize they must have been impossibly long because they wrapped around the thick trunk almost entirely. My hands wouldn't have even met each other if I were to do it. Her fingers were long and splayed against the bark, ending in long, dirty nails. Her face will be burned into my memory forever. Her skin was so pale, almost completely white, and her eyes were a light, milky blue, too big and too wide apart. She had long, stringy blonde, almost white hair. She was completely naked. "Are you in pain?" she asked, in a cracked, wispy voice, and then she started smiling. I expected to see fangs in her mouth. Instead, she had the tiniest teeth spaced apart in swollen pink gums, but they were sharp and pointy like a crocodile. As her smile got wider and wider at my shock, I felt adrenaline fill my body. Slick's words echoed through my mind: head back to the trailhead and get to my car. My heart pounding, my neck slick with sweat. I started walking, briskly, unsure if turning my back towards her was a terrible idea. I felt her eyes on me. I jogged, gritting my teeth with the pain for what could have been 5 minutes or 50. Please, God, I thought, don't let me see her again. My mind tried to reconcile with what I had just witnessed, but I pushed the thoughts out of my head. Worrying about that would dull my senses, and I sure needed all my wits about me to make it back to my car. It was impossible, but somehow she made it to a tree ahead of me. I stopped and felt my heart drop as a pale leg appeared from the thick canopy of a tree just 20 feet ahead, and then another leg appeared. She was climbing down. I started running, ducking as I flew past the tree she was coming down from. A long arm swooped down as I passed, but I managed to dodge her grabbing claws. I looked back and saw that she was at the bottom of the tree on all fours. Her propositions were human, but so wrong. She began to scuttle towards me, like a crab, with short, fast steps. She was covering ground at an alarming rate, and I knew there was no way I could outrun her. I made it to a clearing that I remembered was close to the parking lot. If I could just last 5 more minutes, I could maybe get to safety. And then I tripped, pain searing through my already bloodied and blistered toes as they collided with a rock. I landed on my hands with a thud and waited for the inevitable. I was so sure it was about to happen that I could almost feel her collide with me. But nothing. Still on my hands and knees, I shakily turned my head. She was still there, on all fours, but stopped. She let out an animal-like shriek, but didn't come any closer. It took me a while to register. She wouldn't come into the clearing. She was staying in the shade of the trees, prowling, looking for a way to get to me. The sunlight seemed to be what had saved me. A million thoughts played out in my mind. I could stay in the clearing until someone else came along. But what if they couldn't help me? What if no one came at all? It would eventually get dark. I knew that after the clearing, for about 300 yards, the path was shaded by trees again before the trailhead. Could I make it if I sprinted? With stomach-churning dread, I knew I would have to try. I kept my eyes on her and started backing up, slowing. She stayed at the shade's edge, watching me, evaluating what I was doing. 200 feet until the path became shaded again. 100, 50, 10. And then I turned around and started sprinting. The trail crested and I could see the parking lot. I didn't feel relieved. I wasn't safe yet. But I could see safety, and so I allowed myself to hope. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a flash of white. I turned and saw her bounding towards me through the trees. She had come around and was looping towards me. At the speed she was going, I was sure she'd get to me before I made it off the path. Somehow I managed to push myself, and I heard her shriek again, a sound of pure animalistic frustration and hunger as I made it back into the sunlight of the parking lot. I flew past the ranger station and fumbled with my keys. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped them. I managed to unlock my car and get in, locking it again. I started the engine and put it into reverse, swinging out of my parking bay without even looking. Slick came running out of the station, a look of shock and suspicion on his face. I rolled down my window a fraction and yelled at him to go back inside and lock the doors. He hesitated for only a second and then hurried back inside, closing the door behind him. I didn't stop trembling for the entire 45 minutes it took me to get home. I don't know what she was. I don't know what she wanted, or what she was going to do to me if she had caught me. What I do know, though, is that after that one and only hike, I've never felt safe again, and I have never shaken off the feeling of being watched. I keep my lights on at home, all the time. I avoid the shade, my shadow now a thing of safety and comfort. I'm a server at a Midwestern diner. A few weeks ago, a customer appeared at one of the booths. I say appeared because I hadn't seen her come in, and usually I am very attentive to the sound of the doorbell. It was a pretty bustling evening, though. I approached to take her order. She sat with her back to me, her curly hair pinned up in a style that reminded me of old movies. Her age was hard to determine from behind, but she looked to be in her 60s, I guess. She was sitting perfectly still, statuesque. When I came around to the front of the booth, I gasped and dropped my pen. The woman was not breathing. Lips slightly parted, skin withering and shrunken. No movement, not the faintest motion of her chest. But it was the eyes that were the giveaway she was dead. Unblinking and unseeing, and a little too deeply shrunken in their sockets. Oh God, I took a step back. And then the woman's head turned and she said in a raspy voice, "Just a coffee, please." Her eyes blinked. Not that after all. Of course, sure. Any milk or sugar? Black. I scurried to get her coffee. When I looked back, she was again motionless. When it came time for the check, she put down a $50 bill. I started to tell her I didn't have change since all she'd ordered was a coffee. But she said, "It's all right, dear. It will cover the meal for that nice family over there." Her head inclined, ever so slightly, to a family in the corner booth having dinner. The family in the corner were regulars, came here every Sunday with the kids. The parents were divorced. The kids lived with their dad, and their mom always picked them up on weekends. This diner was on the route between the parents' houses, and they'd meet up here to discuss the plans for the next week. They always left a tip, and the kids drew pictures for me. "Really?" I said to the old woman. "That's very nice of you." Without another word, the old woman stood up and left. The family were very pleasantly surprised when I approached and informed them that their meal had been paid for. They asked by who, and I told her the old woman from the other booth. One of the kids looked over where I'd indicated and said, "I didn't see any woman sitting there." Weird. The next time the old woman appeared was several weeks later. It was after midnight. Again, I heard no bell ring above the door. I was wiping down the counters, and when I looked up, there she was, sitting at the same booth, like a statue, silent. I came over to take her order. I wondered if I should ask her about the family. I hadn't seen them in the week since she'd paid for their meal. It was strange. They'd been coming every Sunday, and then after she paid their meal, they stopped. As I neared the booth, suddenly the woman inhaled, It struck me that until then, she'd been so still, I hadn't been sure if she'd been breathing at all. She turned to me and said, "Coffee, please. Black." Sure. Since she wasn't exactly chatty, I just went and got her coffee, trying to work up the nerve to strike up a casual conversation and ask her about the family. Before I could, the doorbell rang and Carlos came in. Carlos was a friend of my boss who liked to drop in once in a while. He ordered a burger, and we began chatting about how things were with his girlfriend and with his girlfriend's boyfriend. I can never keep track of who's in his astonishingly wide relationship circle. Apparently, he just adopted a dog. He showed me pictures while he ate. Carlos, not to be mean, but that might be the world's fuggliest dog, I told him. He laughed. Nobody wanted her. That's why I took her. That's sweet of you, but that thing looks like it has rabies. Scabies. What? I'm kidding. She's got mange, though. He started to tell me about how he'd rescued her when I heard a throat clear and remembered the woman at the booth. Shoot, I'd forgotten her order. I hurried to get her coffee, and as I set it down, asked if she wanted anything else. And she put a 20 down and said it was for that nice young man's burger. She didn't even drink the coffee I gave her. She got up and left, ignoring me when I started to ask, "Are you sure? Why do you keep paying for it?" "Hey," called Carlos, "who are you talking to?" "The woman." I turned back, but she was already gone. "What woman? It's just you and me. Are you okay? Are you high or something?" I looked at the money in my hand. It was real enough. "Burgers on the house," I told him. "For real? Thanks." He scarfed the last bite, hopped up, and told me he was late. No idea what sort of date he was off to at 1 a.m., but that's Carlos. And then he was breezing out the door. The next day, I heard he'd been shot. My boss told me. We were chatting about the boss's dog, and I mentioned Carlos's mangy rescue dog, and he suddenly got serious and informed me that last night, Carlos had been jumped on his way to a bar. He'd try to fight off the muggers, but one of them had a gun. "They shot him in the head," he said grimly. "Jesus," I said. My boss told me Carlos had been rushed to the hospital, but he was hanging by a thread, almost certain to die. Or, if he survived, he'd be a vegetable. I was shaken, deeply, deeply shaken. Poor Carlos. His poor girlfriend. His poor mangy dog. And the thought intruded. Was it because of the old woman? What about the family that used to come in Sundays but had disappeared? Had misfortune struck them too? I resolved that the next time I saw the old woman, I would ask her what she was doing. I wouldn't let her pay for the next customer. The old woman returned just this afternoon. There were only a handful of customers as it was between the lunch and dinner hour. As always, I didn't hear her come in. One moment I was busy bussing dishes. The next I spotted her at the booth. I straightened up and approached her. Her sunken eyes turned to me. I could never get over the feeling I was looking at death itself. Then she gave that sudden inhalation, like she was remembering to breathe, and she said, "Coffee, black." And I was surprised at the end. "A root beer float," she added. I just pressed my lips together, nodded, and went to get the drinks. Surveyed the room. There were 3 other tables with customers, an old couple, a family with a teenage daughter, a woman working on her laptop. And even though I should have gotten the old woman her drinks right away, I instead made sure to get everyone else's orders to their tables and to get their bills to them. The couple paid, as did the woman on her laptop. That left only the family. They were still eating. I fetched the coffee and the flow for the old woman, but mentally resolved not to let her pay for anybody. She did not react to my placing the drinks beside her. I was tense, counting the minutes until the family was near to finishing. The old woman cleared her throat. Ignoring her, I hurried over to the family and asked if they wanted dessert. They didn't, so I asked how they'd like to pay and quickly rang them up. Only then did I return to the old woman's booth. She had not touched either drink. She put a $10 bill on the table and said, "The root beer float is for you." "Oh," I said, and goosebumps rose along my arms because how did she know that root beer floats are my favorite? No, I can't have customers buy me drinks. It's against policy. I insist, she said. I'll bring you change for the coffee. She got up. Actually, wait, here, I'll pay for everything. I quickly reached into my pocket for my wallet and dropped $10 onto the table. I'll get your coffee too, on the house, since I took so long with your order. She frowned. Accept the gift that is given to you. Nope, I can pay for the root beer float even though I didn't drink it, and your coffee is free. And I took her $10 and, holding my breath, seized her papery hand and shoved the bill into her fingers. She exhaled and left. I didn't turn around as she walked past me, didn't hear the doorbell ring, but a moment later, when I looked over my shoulder, there was no trace of the old woman. A feeling of relief swept over me. A little while later, the dinner hour had arrived, and the tables were full. I heard the doorbell ring, and it was them, my family of regulars. Today's not a Sunday, and I hadn't seen them in so long, so I was very surprised. I cleaned up their usual booth and got them seated. And when I came over to take their order, I exclaimed about how I'd missed seeing them. Oh, yeah, it was pretty crazy, said the dad. After we left last time, we drove together, and I don't know if you remember how hard it was raining, but the car skidded and we lost control. You lost control, corrected the mom. Yes, I lost control because it was the minivan that I told you not to get because those things flip way too easily. And it did. It rolled. It spun out right in the middle of the highway and then flipped over the guardrail and rolled. I swear my soul left my body, said one of the kids. It was very harrowing. We just couldn't come back here for a while, said the mom. Were you hurt? I asked, stunned. Just minor injuries. The police said it was really just miraculous how we all came out of it alive. The mom smiled. I nodded, glad for them, relieved to have my regulars back again. They said they couldn't bring themselves to come for a while because of the accident, but the kids kept asking, so tonight they decided to meet here for dinner. After I put in their order, I called my boss to let him know because he'd been worried about them too. He sounded delighted on the phone and told me he had some good news of his own. Carlos is going to pull through. He's awake from the coma and he's now on the road to recovery. That's great, I said, even as at that moment, something clicked. I typed all this up instead of leaving at the end of my shift tonight. I've been thinking about the old woman, how she looked, well, like death, or maybe more like near death. I keep thinking about how Carlos took a bullet to the brain, how the family of regulars were in a horrific accident, how all of them should have been dead, but they survived by a miracle. And I think I may have made a terrible mistake. So now I'm terrified to leave the diner. Terrified because I didn't let her pay for my drink. I just don't want to know what happens next. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Which story was your favorite? Personally, mine was the one about the follower. See you in the next one.